Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday to you. What in the world is going on with the Bryan Kohberger case? We're hearing a lot of this, that, don't know what the truth is, what don't know. We don't know if there's truth or no truth or what's going on in reference to the grand jury in Pennsylvania. The purported grand jury, I'm going to say. The alleged grand jury. Is there a grand jury? Is there not a grand jury? That is the Friday question. Good morning. Let's chat. Is there a grand jury or is there not a grand jury in Pennsylvania? That is the question. What is going on here? I want to show you some stuff. I want to show you some tweets. I want to play some segments. I want to show you some Facebook posts and try to mash and put this all together because I am confused here. Following this case, trying to get the most accurate information and what's truth and what's not. And I'm totally mind blown about this grand jury, this proposed grand jury situation in Pennsylvania. Is there really a grand jury? And if there is really a grand jury, what is this grand jury about? Right? And we've been reporting on this for the last couple days. It's been going on for the last couple days since CNN broke the story a couple days ago saying that the parents of Bryan Kohberger were subpoenaed to go in front of a grand jury in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, the same county where they live and where Bryan Kohberger lived with his parents before he was out in Washington. He lived with his parents in Monroe County. His parents got subpoenaed recently to appear in front of a grand jury there. CNN did not report what the grand jury was about. CNN only said that the parents were both subpoenaed, that the parents got a lawyer and tried to stop themselves, and that Marianne Kohberger, Bryan Kohberger's mom, went in first, and then his dad was supposed to go yesterday in front of a grand jury. Don't know why they separated the parents at a separation. And then reports started coming out. Brian Enton with News Nation puts out that the grand jury is dealing with Dana Smithers, the Dana Smithers case. And then yesterday, the police department up there, put out a statement saying, the Bryan Kohberger, there's no evidence of a connection between Bryan Kohberger and Dana Smithers. And then people are wondering, then what does this all mean? What is this grand jury about? What's going on? What is going on? Brian Enton put out a statement. So we're gonna put out because Brian Enton said that he spoke to Dana Smithers' sister, Stacy. And she said some things I want to share with you. So I'm going to share this tweet with you, and we're going to dissect this tweet first, and we're going to move on. We're going to continue. So Brian Enton tweets out last night, more on the investigated grand jury situation in Pennsylvania. We talked to Dana Smithers' sister. We still don't know exactly why Kohberger's parents, Bryan Kohberger's parents, were called to testify in relation to the Dana Smithers case. And he attaches a statement that was written down. We spoke with Dana's sister, Stacy. She says she learned, even before Kohberger's arrest, that an investigative grand jury in Pennsylvania was meeting and looking into her sister's case and other cases. Now, I find that interesting. According to Stacy, and Stacy is Dana Smithers' sister. Dana Smithers is the 45-year-old that went missing about a year ago, was recently found at the end of April, her remains in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. But I find this interesting because Stacy says she learned even before Kohberger's arrest. And Kohberger was arrested December 30th, at the end of last year, that an investigative grand jury in Pennsylvania was meeting and looking into her sister's case and other cases. So, what that means to me is Kohberger got arrested December 30th. Stacey's now saying that a grand jury was already impaneled before Bryan Kohberger was even arrested about the Dana Smithers case. So how long was this investigated grand jury impaneled? And it looks like, if that's the case, the grand jury for Dana Smithers investigating her case and other missing cases was impaneled before Dana Smithers was even found. Because Dana Smithers was found a few weeks ago. So we were talking about this the last couple of days because we were curious to know. We were curious to know, all of us was curious to know, when was this grand jury impaneled? Because some people were kind of saying, whoa, well, Dana Smithers was found at the end of April. Her body wasn't, autopsy results or the, forensics or whatnot didn't formally identify her body to the beginning of May. And then a couple weeks later, Kohberger's parents get subpoenaed about her case. They impaneled a grand jury so quickly in the month of May. But I asked that question too. I said, was the grand jury impaneled before Dana Smithers was found? And it looks like that's the case. But not only was it impaneled before Dana Smithers was found, according to Stacey, it was impaneled before Bryan Kohberger was even arrested. Before he was even arrested. Let's keep going. After Kohberger was arrested, December 30th, she says the grand jury began looking into whether Kohberger could be connected to her sister's disappearance. So grand jury is impaneled before Kohberger is arrested. And then after Kohberger got arrested, Stacey says the grand jury began looking into whether Kohberger could be connected to her disappearance. So they start investigating, an investigative grand jury, Kohberger. Stacey then says it became clear he was not connected and that there was evidence he was not in the area where her sister was last seen. She says it was clear that he was not connected and there was evidence he was not in the area where her sister was last seen. What is the evidence? What evidence? Does Stacey have some evidence on Bryan Kohberger? His alibi? She is hopeful people will continue to be invested in Dana's case and to find out what happened. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing here. But according to Stacey, see, I'm a little confused by this. Because one, how would Stacey know what the grand jury is doing? Isn't it a secret process? I say that because Steve Gonzalez and the victims in the Moscow, Idaho case, they really didn't know what was going on with the grand jury. You don't know. These victims' families don't know what's going on and what is transpiring behind closed doors in a grand jury. So what I'm saying is, I'm not saying what Stacey's saying here is not true. I just have a lot of questions of how she comes up with these what she's saying. She says it became clear he was not connected and there was evidence he was not in the area where her sister was last seen. How does she have evidence? And what evidence does she have? And if Bryan Kohberger wasn't in the area where her sister was last seen, where was Bryan Kohberger? Where was Bryan Kohberger? I say that because last night, Ashley Branfield brings two people onto her panel last night. And I think the two people she brought on her panel might not be the source to this alibi. She brings two girls that run a Facebook group. I guess it's the biggest Facebook Moscow, Idaho group. And they said some interesting things. They say some interesting things here. I'm going to share what they say. You listen to what she's saying. And she talks to two girls here.
The confirmed alibi. That's another fascinating aspect of this, Alina. The fact that the police have said that there's a confirmed alibi. Rather, not the police. Bryan Enchihn's source has said that Bryan Kohberger has a confirmed alibi in this case. How did that sit with the members of the group?
Well, as far as we know, the confirmed alibi is that his mom said that he was home and went to sleep before she did. So she's confirming that she watched him, head to bed, and she can confirm that she was awake long enough to where he was still sleeping and she went to bed. But, who knows?
Think about that. She just said out of her own mouth, or she said, this admin named Alina Smith of a Facebook group said that, as far as she knows, the alibi was Bryan Kohberger's mom saying out of her own mouth that Bryan Kohberger was asleep inside his mom's home. How does the admin in this group, in this Facebook group, know that? And is that true? I'm fascinated to know more. I want to know more. Because it goes actually contrary to what Bryan Enchinh tweeted out. Remember, he tweeted out that the sister said, and there was evidence he was not in the area where her sister was last seen. Not in the area. What does that mean? So does that mean that it's corroborated by this Facebook admin saying that Bryan Kohberger's mom said Bryan Kohberger was asleep? What's going on, people? It sounds like a lot of hearsay to me. This statement right here, let's review it again. Let's review.
The confirmed alibi. That's another fascinating aspect of this, Alina. The fact that the police have said that there's a confirmed alibi. Rather, not the police. Bryan Enchihn's source has said that Bryan Kohberger has a confirmed alibi in this case. How did that sit with the members of the group?
Well, as far as we know, the confirmed alibi is that his mom said that he was home and went to sleep before she did. So she's confirming that she watched him, head to bed, and she can confirm that she was awake long enough to where he was still sleeping and she went to bed. But, who knows? If I go to sleep, I could leave the house after everybody else goes to sleep. To me, that's not a confirmed alibi at all. Anybody could sneak out of the house. Anybody can leave if they wanted to. So if that's what they're saying is a confirmed alibi, then that is a very weak confirmed alibi.
What is going on here, people? What is going on here? I'm at a loss of words here. I really am. You got Dana Smithers, the sister, saying that this investigative grand jury started before Kohberger was even arrested. Once Kohberger was arrested, they began investigating him. And then it was determined, I don't know how Dana Smithers knows this, but it was determined that Bryan Kohberger was not involved and he was not in the area at the time. And then Ashley Banfield bringing on an admin of a Facebook group who claimed that Marianne Kohberger said, I don't know how they get that information, it said it out of her own mouth, that Bryan Kohberger's mom said that Bryan Kohberger was asleep inside the house. Did Bryan Kohberger's mom talk to these admins? How did they get that information? I didn't see anywhere where Bryan Kohberger's mom was talking. Did she talk to somebody? Did she talk to someone behind the scenes and tell what transpired? And then also, if the investigation was investigating Bryan Kohberger after he got arrested, so anywhere between January and all the way up to now, Bryan Kohberger's mom is going to remember if Bryan Kohberger was asleep. What was it, May 28th when she went missing? May 28th, 2022? If you have a family member, does your family member know specifically that you were asleep 9 months prior at a certain time and date? Then you got this, then you got the police chief, then you got the police chief of that town. Press release, Stroud Area Regional Police Department. The Stroud Area Regional Police Department is aware of many current reported news articles in which various media outlets have reported connections between SAR PD, Dana Smithers' missing person case, and Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. The SAR PD has no evidence that Dana Smith's disappearance is in any way tied to Bryan Kohberger. It's just so bizarre. To me, it's just there's so much fog. I don't know what's true or what's not. Are the police lying? Is the reporting that there's a grand jury the truth? Is Dana's sister even telling the truth? It's all, to me, I can't figure out. First off, I would love to know if there's actually a grand jury that exists. That's my curiosity at this point. Is there a grand jury? And so far, what do we know? The only thing we know is CNN reported it. Bryan Enton said that it was dealing with Dana Smithers' sister. Dana Smithers, according to her sister. Remember, Bryan Kohberger's dad was supposed to testify yesterday in front of this grand jury. The dad, Michael Kohberger, he was, according to the CNN reports, he was supposed to go in yesterday. Now, this case with the grand jury has ran rampant enough for the police chief to, come out with a statement. Police chief came out with a statement. I have somebody on my Twitter feed that keeps commenting about this, and she doesn't think the grand juries even exist. And she put an interesting comment to my tweet. I'm going to share. Because all of this was orchestrated and fed to the media, like I said, CNN and News Nation had a full 24 hours to get to PA for pics of the Kohbergers arriving to the grand jury yesterday. Ask why Dan Abrams tried to pass off stock footage from his arrest in PA as them going into the grand jury. Did media show up in PA? Where's all the pics, interviews, crickets? And she does have a point here. I like this comment because it went viral that there was a grand jury. This viral report. And it was reported that Michael Kohberger was supposed to go into the courthouse or go into the grand jury tomorrow. No media outlets out there? Not one photo out there of Michael Kohberger arriving to go to court? Remember, Bryan Kohberger had court all his times he had actual court hearings? Media camped out outside. Lots of media. Lots of media out there, but nothing out there. Nothing? Do you think there's a grand jury out there? Do you think it's related to Dana Smithers? Because now the police are saying that no evidence whatsoever. Let me show you something. Let me show you this Facebook page, Finding Dana. It's from Dana Smithers' family. Well, a friend of the family that's claiming. Or maybe somebody that's just speaking on their behalf, or someone that's just interjecting themselves into it. I don't know who this person's role is. But this was posted yesterday on their page. So I'm figuring the family runs this page and they have an admin or somebody. This person here. Dana's family and loved ones have gone through a nightmare over the last year, from wondering where she was to learning she was found deceased, to being shoved into a massive public spotlight for speculation potential connections between Dana and BK, to being shoved into massive public spotlight. Well, that's interesting because, like Bryan Enton reported, Dana's sister, Stacy, is talking. And she might be the whole source of this alibi. So I don't necessarily think they're being shoved into the situation if they're the ones that are speaking about it and created this situation. If it's true. Is it true? I was asked by one of Dana's friends to help raise awareness about her case in January. So, I was asked by one of Dana's friends. So, this is basically a friend of a friend. So, actually, she's really not really part of the family. She's just a friend of a friend. I was asked by one of Dana's friends to help raise awareness about her case in January, and I made a TikTok and tweets of all details publicly known at that time. I shared another update in May when police announced she was located, deceased. I didn't know Dana, and I don't personally know her family. I didn't even read. I said earlier, it could have been friends and family. Obviously, she's putting here that she doesn't even know the family. So I don't even know how relevant this is. This is just somebody running her page that's just an outsider of an outsider, a friend of a friend. But my heart breaks for them. And all our hearts break for Dana's family. We all want to know what happened to Dana. Dana's strong sister, Stacey Ann, has been asked for space and privacy for the family to agree. She tagged Stacey Ann. I ask again here and repost her words along with a copy of today's press release. Seeing rumor posts in this group and people asking her direct questions about her sister's DEATH is not okay. This group is placed for people to share memories of Dana and support her family, not speculate or bombard them with questions. Please respect Dana's life and her family's needs at this time. Now, this was 19 hours ago. This was way into yesterday. And Bryan Enton put out a statement last night. So Dana's sister is talking. But I'm curious to know more about this. So has this whole grand jury, investigative grand jury thing, has this, like the cat out of the bag? What I'm saying is it got released a couple days ago. We didn't know, no one knew anything prior to a couple days ago that there was a grand jury, if there's a grand jury. But Stacy pretty much validates it. Dana's sister validates that there has been one, and it's been impaneled for a while. How long is this investigative grand jury going on? But how does she know that Bryan Kohberger has, is not connected? Is people leaking information to that family? Or has Stacy spoke to the Kohbergers? Has Stacy spoke to anyone affiliated with the Kohbergers to come with the determination that Kohberger is not connected? and there was evidence he was not in the area, where was he? Where was Kohberger? Where was he? Where was he? May 28th. She's saying she has evidence. What evidence? I'm curious to know what evidence. So she's pretty much validating that she has evidence that Kohberger was not in the area. I wonder what that evidence could be. Did she hand that evidence over to authorities? Did she hand that evidence over to authorities? That's a big deal. Unless, see, because we really don't know. Again, it's been reported by CNN that Bryan Kohberger's dad went into the grand jury yesterday. What was said? If he in fact went in. If he went in, what did he talk about? But then it has me wondering about Bryan Kohberger's dad. Because remember, the mom, it's been reported that the mom went in days ago. Why did they? The thing about it is, when you have a family like that, usually the grand jury will bring you in to question you about something back to back. Like the parents go in at the same time, like back to back. They'll do the parent, mother first, dad second, or dad first, mother second, but it's back to back. Why did they decide to separate? If it's true that they went into the grand jury, why did they separate them and the mother had to go first and then now the dad? Is one a witness, one a target, or vice versa? We still don't know what was said yesterday. And I'm curious to know what. What did Bryan Kohberger's dad say to the grand jury yesterday, if he went in? If he went in. What kind of information could he have given about Bryan or himself or about others or about Marianne or about Melissa Kohberger, maybe Amanda Kohberger? Maybe they want to know about the whole Kohbergers. And how long will this investigated grand jury go on for? How long will it go on for? It's going to go on for a while.
I want to bring in two.
So Ashley had two people from a Facebook group that said some information last night. Said some information about this case. I'm going to play this. So a lot of this information seems like it's also coming out of this Facebook group. And it seems like Ashley brings these two people in regularly as guests. Seems like they all know each other, like a friendship. That's rock.
I want to bring in two people now who've been following the Bryan Kohberger saga longer than almost anyone. Christine Cameron and Alina Smith are administrators of the University of Idaho Murders Case Discussion Facebook page. And we're so happy that you're friends of the show, and you've been so helpful, just sort of, taking the temperature as this case has garnered such fascination, not just across the country, but all around the globe. Alina, let me start with you. Just this latest news about the Pennsylvania grand jury. What's fascinating about this is that it was actually the sleuths online who brought to the attention of Dana's family that Bryan Kohberger, was a thing just within days of him being arrested. That's pretty amazing.
Yes. Hi, Ashley. So when this happened, when Bryan was arrested, basically what a lot of people did online is they looked at all of the missing persons cases and just went to see where he went to school, where he lived, and tried to narrow it down to see if he was maybe a suspect in those as well. Nobody believed that he could be capable of killing 4 people as his first murder. That just seemed extreme. It seemed out of the realm of the, when people kill people, I guess, like the statistics, and nobody wanted to believe that this was his first murder. So they just started to look at all the missing persons cases and where he lived and where he went to school, and just to see if there's any connections or correlations with what they can find.
And certainly, I mean, the spot where Dana's body turned up was so close to.
So what she's saying is these online sleuths are the ones that brought it to Dana's sister's attention, it looks like, once Kohberger got arrested. That's the way they're describing it. So I'm thinking online sleuths would be the people in that group that they run. That was a big group. It's a big group. A group has like 200,000 people. So, I think I've done the same thing. I think a lot of you guys done the same thing. When Kohberger got arrested, all of us wanted to know, is he involved with other crimes? Did he do something somewhere else? He probably had to do this before. If he did this horrible crime, he had to do something else. So people started fishing around and looking around at unsolved cases, particularly around where Bryan Kohberger's parents lived. He was originally from Pennsylvania, or he's lived in Pennsylvania for most of his life. What's unsolved in Pennsylvania? And then people said, whoa, Dana Smithers. And it looks like online sleuths, don't know who, brought it to Dana's sister's attention. Hey, could be this Kohberger guy. That's the way I'm seeing it here. This is how I'm seeing it transpire. But according to Dana's sister, there was already a grand jury impaneled before Bryan Kohberger was even arrested. Do they impanel grand juries for just missing people without the bodies being found? Let's go on.
Certainly, I mean, the spot where Dana's body turned up was so close to not only the Kohberger home, but also DeSales University, where Bryan was a student at the time. So, Christine, what was the reaction from, the members in your Facebook group to see this news break about this grand jury and the subpoenas to Kohberger's parents?
Yeah, hi, Ashley. Thanks for having us again. The initial reaction from the group was really wanting more details, like we all do. I think a lot of people speculated that there would be more information coming from his past that reveal problematic behavior. And this Idaho case is extreme, and people have wondered and questioned if this was his first crime, because it seems highly unlikely that someone would commit 4 murders the first time around.
Yeah, I think that's been, sort of a theme for a lot of people, thinking that's a heck of a first time offense, So let me ask you this, Alina, the statement that came from the local police, the Stroud police, that it just kind of gave us all a head shake. Did your members have any good theories or parse that statement any better than I was able to, quickly at the top of the show?
I don't think so. I think everybody was just thinking like, well, that was what the local police said. Maybe there's a deeper investigation. If the grand jury was, setting out subpoenas, then maybe the local police doesn't know what's going on a grander scheme of things.
So she says that the police that gave out that statement yesterday said no involvement with Kohberger. Her and her group think that it's deep. It could be deeper. And the police might not be aware that there's a grand jury. That's the way kind of what she said there. You think the police would know that there's a grand jury in reference to a case that they're investigating? But she also adds on. Let's keep going. A lot of this does not make sense to me.
I think everybody just wants more. That if you get any piece of information, they just always think there's something more behind it, And
I think if you go back to the Idaho case and you're looking at what the police did there and keeping us all in the dark, I think that's where people are questioning.
She does have a point there with Moscow PD. In reference to the Moscow PD case, yeah, the Moscow PD has not been forthcoming, in a sense. Gag order and keeping a lot of people in the dark to speculate. So could this be the same thing? That's what they're asking. That's what they're kind of saying. They're saying, hey, if this police department, what was it called? The Stroud's Police Department? What's the name of the local police department up there investigating? It's like Stroud area. It's like SARD, SARD PD. Let me get them again. Stroud Area Regional Police Department. Chief Jennifer Line. So they have a female police chief. Says there's no way connected to Bryan Kohberger case. So this Facebook group and their members are thinking, are they trying to withhold information or more or less keep people in the dark? I'm not going to put words in their mouth. Sadie Katz, thank you. What do you believe? Do you believe this? Who do you believe? Who do you not believe? Who in all this whole saga do you believe, and who do you not believe?
Oh, and understandably, because some of the things the Idaho police said just turned out to not to be the case at all. So, and stay with that, Christine, and the notion that, a lot of the folks in the case discussion group have, they've posited certain theories. They've come up with fascinating concepts and ideas. I wondered if there are a lot of theories and theorizing that there might be another suspect, or rather another victim out there. What do the members think about the potential of other possible victims, allegedly, of Bryan Kohberger?
Well, Ashley, you know that all of our pages end with the case discussion attached, because in essence, that's what we are all about. We want people to be discussing and theorizing. And in the beginning, we had no idea who this person was. So all of us were focused solely on this case. And now that there's a suspect in custody, members want to know more and are open to discussing this case and other cases that involve him. For example, we found an old rap song that he allegedly wrote and rapped. And if you listen to the lyrics, there are some really interesting verbiage used that indicate some aggressive and angry thoughts, like, you are not my equal, you are evil, but I'm the devil. So,
yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable stuff. And I think that with the gag order, we're only at the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how much material we're actually going to learn about Bryan Kohberger and his background. And I'm sure they have done every single digital autopsy of every shred of his life. So I'm sure there's more to come. But so let me ask you this about the alibi, the confirmed alibi. That's another fascinating aspect of this, Alina. The fact that the police have said that there's a confirmed alibi, rather not the police. Bryan Enchin's sources said that Bryan Kohberger has a confirmed alibi in this case. How did that sit with the members of the group?
Well, as far as we know, the confirmed alibi is that his mom said that he was home and went to sleep before she did. So she's confirming that she watched him, head to bed, and she can confirm that she was awake long enough to where he was still sleeping and she went to bed. But,
Whoa. So that piques my curious the most out of that interview. How does this Facebook group know what Bryan Kohberger's mom said? Because they're saying it like this is what happened. Like Bryan Kohberger's mom said that Bryan Kohberger was in bed. Is members of this group speaking to Bryan Kohberger's mom to know that? Has Bryan Kohberger's mother shared this information with others before? Is she talking behind the scenes? Because, or is this all like they heard it from third-hand people, like a rumor, and eventually you hear a story from another story, and the story changes by the time it gets down the chain of command. JLR, someone said BK's sister knows Dana Smithers' sibling from church. QO, thank you. Thank you for that information. So QO says, JLR, someone said BK's sister knows Dana Smithers' sibling from church. Allegedly. Thank you for saying allegedly. So, Bryan Kohberger's sibling, Amanda Kohberger, she lives in that area. Does Amanda Kohberger know Dana's family? Do they attend church together? We don't know if mom's alibi provided is correct. We don't even know if the mother provided an alibi. This is what a Facebook group is saying. I don't know if this is true or not. I mean, does someone in this Facebook group know something that we don't know? Daily Mail came out with a report yesterday. Internet sleuths alerted family of missing Pennsylvania woman that Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger's parents lived in the same area where she vanished before they called the cops. So it just makes me wonder. I'm hearing by multiple sources it was the internet sleuths or the Facebook group people that alerted Dana Smithers' family from the get-go when Bryan Kohberger got arrested to kind of set this ball in motion. And maybe Dana Smithers' family at that point handed that information over to LE or, brought the awareness of that to LE. And then, according to what Brian Entin reported last night, that Smithers, well, I'll post it again. This is his report last night, or his tweet. We spoke with Dana Smithers' sister, Stacy. She says she learned even before Kohberger's arrest that an investigative grand jury in Pennsylvania was meeting and looking into her sister's case and other cases. After Kohberger was arrested, she says the grand jury began looking into whether Kohberger could be connected to her sister's disappearance. She says it became clear he was not connected, and there was evidence that he was not in the area where her sister was last seen. Is this the rock-solid alibi that Entin was talking about days ago? That Kohberger provided a rock-solid alibi according to the source? Let me get back to his old tweet. He's saying that there's a rock-solid alibi that Kohberger had. But just, to me, I don't think any of this story adds up. It's so confusing. It's so confusing, right? That this story, that you have, Dana Smithers' sister coming out on the record saying that a grand jury was impaneled before Kohberger was arrested and Kohberger was vetted and he's not involved, and the sister has evidence Bryan Kohberger was not in the area. At the same time, again, and this is my problem with the case. This is my problem with this whole grand jury thing in Pennsylvania. Not one media outlet was out there yesterday to actually see Michael Kohberger go talk to the grand jury. Like, you would think cameras would be planted out there, and I saw nothing. Also, I haven't even seen any evidence that there is a grand jury. Like, no documents or anything like that. Or we just, it seems like the actual source of this grand jury, like the source that there's a grand jury, the way I'm reading it, is the source that there is an investigative grand jury is Dana Smithers' sister, Stacy. That seems like, to me, that is the source of all of this. That she's claiming one, but she's also claiming not only is it, it was impaneled before Kohberger was even arrested. But at the same time, the police department there is saying no. There's no connection between Kohberger and Dana. But they didn't say there wasn't a grand jury impaneled to investigate whether there is a connection or not. It's so, it's, it's so bizarre to me. It's so bizarre to me. What is the truth and what is not? Is there a grand jury impaneled? Look, this is what Enton posted the other day when the grand jury information first got out. He was the second reporter to actually talk about the grand jury. CNN was the first, without any, with unnamed sources. A source close to the case says Kohberger has a solid alibi and is not likely connected to Smithers' disappearance. I'm thinking Enton's, I don't know for sure, I'm thinking Enton's source is Dana's sister, Stacy. But these reporters are still adamant that a grand jury is impaneled in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, dealing with Dana Smithers. Because someone asked, maybe it has nothing to do with Dana Smithers, a grand jury. But these reporters are still adamant to this day that there is an impaneled grand jury in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, and is dealing with Dana Smithers and other people, I guess. Dana or Stacy Smithers says other people, other missing people, and that Bryan Kohberger was investigated about it, but apparently cleared. But if Bryan Kohberger was cleared, we don't know when, why is his parents still being subpoenaed? T-Rev, nice to see you. I've been watching these reports closely. Why did they make his parents go to the grand jury or father? Exactly. If it's true, why does the father have to go into the grand jury yesterday? And why did the mother even go days before the father? And why, according to CNN, who said they spoke to the parents' lawyer, they didn't name the lawyer in the report, why did they try to stop it? Why did the parents try to quash the subpoena, to quash it? And if you guys don't know what quashing a subpoena is, you're trying to stop the subpoena. But when were they subpoenaed? Because here's another question, too. If you try to quash a subpoena, like, okay, for instance, if you get a knock on your door, boom, 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 sheriffs, U.S. Marshals, whoever, process server, whoever, serves you and says you've been subpoenaed to testify in front of a grand jury. So you see this subpoena. You're subpoena. You're required to go, and they'll probably give you a week's notice, maybe shorter if it's an urgency. About a week's notice. So you're required to testify in front of a grand jury in about a week, right? So the person gets the subpoena and they're like, what do we do? What do we do? We contact the lawyer. So the lawyer is going to, we don't want to talk for whatever reason. They're telling us we got to give up this information, documents, records, talk, DNA, whatever. Lawyer will be like, okay, I'll file a motion to get this quashed. So the lawyer will draft a motion with the courts and submit it with the reasons why the family or whoever's the subject of the subpoena should not testify or provide the evidence or whatever. The prosecution will have an opportunity to file a response to that. Sometimes it also requires a hearing on that matter to determine if the parents would, or the person, the subject, the person, whoever the thing, would actually have. So the judge is actually, it's like almost like a mini trial, almost like it's an actual hearing to determine whether the subject has to, testify or provide the evidence. Ultimately, what usually happens most of the time is the judge is going to rule in favor of the subpoena and say the person has to comply. But there's a process to that. And it's not an overnight process. It takes time. Sometimes it takes months to go through that process. Ultimately, to get a judge to say you have to come in. And then they set another date for you to go in. But that could take months. So the fact that CNN reported that they tried to quash this subpoena makes me think that this process has been going on for a few months. It would have to go on for, it would definitely have to go on before Dana Smithers was found. Because this is just the other day. Dana Smithers was found about 3 weeks ago, or at the end of April. So what is going on here? Were they subpoenaing the parents of Bryan Kohberger before Dana Smithers was even found? And if they investigated Bryan Kohberger like Dana Smithers' sister was saying right after he was arrested and determined he wasn't there, how did they come up with a determination, and what evidence did they use to determine he wasn't in the area at the time? Did they send Bryan Kohberger's subpoena that we don't know about? And why? Because Dana's saying, let's go back to this a minute. Let's go back to this. Dana Smithers' sister is saying, let's go back to this statement. Words are everything, people. After Kohberger was arrested, she says the grand jury began looking into whether Kohberger could be connected to her sister's disappearance. She says it became clear he was not connected, and there was no evidence that he was in the area where her sister was seen. If that's the case, then why are they bringing in Bryan Kohberger's parents now, recently, to testify? If this is the case here, like Stacy Smithers says that Bryan Enton is reporting, why the parents now? Are they trying to, why would you bring in the parents now if you have already determined that Kohberger is not connected? Are they still investigating whether Kohberger is not connected? Can his parents provide the grand jury more insight? Or, and I said this yesterday, are the parents a target? Like, you cleared Bryan Kohberger, according to Stacy. Now what is the grand jury trying to see if they can clear Bryan Kohberger's parents? Does the grand jury think Bryan Kohberger's parents are involved? Like the dad? Very confusing, people. Because remember, the police put out a statement and said there's no evidence of connection between Bryan Kohberger and Dana Smithers. Okay. But if the parents are being put in to testify, why didn't the police put out a statement and said his parents too? There's no evidence his parents are not involved, or no evidence that his parents are involved. You follow what I mean? Maybe it's something to do with his parents. But it just doesn't make sense. All of it. And some people have asked me on Twitter, they said maybe Stacy is kind of over-exaggerating this whole situation. She seems like the source of this grand jury. She's claiming an investigative grand jury is out there. What if Stacy's lying? What if Stacy just lied and made up that there's a grand jury? And then the media outlets, you know how they're all on Kohberger for anything, just goes right into it. Because the police is acting like there's nothing. What about she lied? Maybe she lied about, the case is being investigated, but she kind of said a grand jury. Because I can't see by all that statement how Stacy would know stuff specifically about a grand jury process. They don't reveal that to people, not even the victims' families, till after the fact. And you still don't get the information. And they did say other cases too, looking into her case and other cases. Or, is there actually a grand jury behind the scenes going on right now looking into possible serial, K-I-L-L-E-R, a serial, with unsolved crimes in the Monroe County area? But the parents being called is interesting. But What could they know if Stacy's saying Bryan Kohberger is already cleared and he's not? They have evidence. She has evidence. He was not in the area. How does Stacy have this evidence? And then what relevance does it have to have Bryan Kohberger's parents come in if you already determined he's not involved? I think these are very logical questions. I hope a media outlet can actually get an interview out of Stacy, a more in-depth interview, so she can elaborate on here, because it's so confusing. Maybe she provides some sort of document showing that there's a grand jury in play, because I still don't know if even there is a grand jury. And it's very hard to determine if it is. Like outsiders like us, even the media, it's very hard to find out if there's a grand jury. It's funny how some media outlets were saying, you know, before or after Kohberger got indicted, oh, we've known about this grand jury for about a month. You know, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. You would have reported it as a fact that the grand jury has convened in the Bryan Kohberger case. People always say stuff after the fact. Oh, I know this happened. I knew this was going on behind the scenes. You know, no. There's some media outlets that did that with Kohberger's case. Oh yeah, we knew it. We knew a grand jury was convened, you know, impaneled back in April, and we knew they were investigating Bryan Kohberger and was about to indict. Media is so thirsty for a story. If they knew a grand jury was impaneled for Bryan Kohberger, they would have reported it right then. A grand jury has been impaneled and is investigating to indict or preparing to indict Bryan Kohberger, but nobody did that. We all knew Bryan Kohberger was indicted after the fact. We speculated that a grand jury could indict Bryan Kohberger at some point before the preliminary, but no one reported that the grand jury was in existence. Some of those reporters are funny when they do that too. Oh, our sources told us that the grand jury was meeting a month prior to indicting. You know, I seen it. I'm not going to call them out, but I seen it. I seen it. But now they suddenly know that one exists, opposed to Bryan Kohberger, where no one really said openly that one was existing while before Kohberger was indicted. But with this case in Pennsylvania, now they're reporting actually one exists. Okay, where? How often do they meet? Do they meet every day? What's been talked about? If Stacy's saying it was impaneled before Bryan Kohberger's been arrested, we're talking 6 months. This grand jury has been impaneled for 6 months. Grand jury's been impaneled for 6 months now, and still nothing. How long are you going to impanel a grand jury? Though grand juries can last 18 months. When was it impaneled? Was it impaneled all the way back when Dana Smithers first went missing in May, about a month after she went missing? Did they impanel a grand jury? Remember, this is before Bryan Kohberger is even a suspect. Or was it impaneled before the Moscow crimes happened? November 13th, 2022. Why his parents allegedly didn't want to testify probably isn't that big of a mystery. Well said, Saudi. If the parents were subpoenaed, and if the parents tried to fight that subpoena, big ifs, why? Why would you try to fight something? Why would you try to fight yourself? Why? What do you have to hide? Unless, again, parents are a target. Two types of subpoenas. Target. You're a target. You are the center of the investigation. They want you, and anything that you say to the grand jury will most likely be used against you. Or you're a witness. And a lot of times as a witness, you're a cooperative witness. They're not going... Now, though, a witness can sometimes turn into a target once you talk. But if you get a subpoena as a witness, it's kind of like at ease a little bit. You're kind of at ease. Unless there's something they're asking for that you don't want to give. But then in the grand jury mind, it's like, what are you trying to hide? Why? Or the prosecution that gets this motion to quash, they're like, ooh, interesting. What are you trying to hide? What are they trying to hide? So I ask all of you, the challenge is we have to figure out what is real and what is not. What is conjecture? What is misleading? What is, again, anything I said in this segment, I'm just questioning everything and trying to figure this out. Because I'll be honest, it makes zero sense to me. Like, I could take everyone's thing and poke holes through it. But maybe it all does make sense. And it's just, I'm blinded. Like, I'm blinded. Wizard Wall, anything is possible with this case. And at this point, I almost concur. Anything is possible at this point. But the media is probably like, please be a connection. They want that connection. The media wants the connection, right? They want that connection. They want something. They need more stories. I just want the truth. I want the truth. Thanks for tuning in this morning. I will be back. I'll be looking more into it. Please, if you have any tips or information or your comments, please leave them. We all read each other's comments. You guys have great insight yourself. A lot of you guys come up with great theories and speculations. Love it. We all have different opinions about this case. This is an open to allow different opinions to come in. You might feel Bryan Kohberger is innocent. That is cool. Don't judge off your opinions. Please don't judge me for mine. We're just speculating and talking and covering this case as best as we can and trying to figure out what happened and what else happened and what's transpiring and what transpired. Just trying to put the pieces together. But a lot of us are invested into this case. A lot of us really are genuinely concerned. Not that just that superficial report, about it. But we actually, a lot of us go deeper into this. And we want to know backstories and we want to know people involved. We want to know the outcome. We're just curious. This case has gotten me very addicted to it. And honestly, like, very first thing I do when I get up each day is centered around this case and see what's going on, what's new, what's the latest, what's people saying. Y'all have a very good day. Be safe. Do productive things today. I'll come back on if there's new information, anything that breaks. I'll be back on. Cheers. Have a good day. Everyone be safe. God bless.